Right now, somewhere an Invicta is sitting at almost 90% off a price it was never really worth. That is not a deal. That is the whole business model, and it lands at the very bottom of this ranking. Over the next 15 minutes, I'm putting 14 watch brands in order, from the worst to the best. And the line between them is simple. On one side, marketing budgets, fake discounts, and borrowed movements. On the other, companies that build the watch themselves and never need a countdown timer to sell it. The higher the number climbs, the better the watch gets. So we start at the rock bottom at number 1. Number 1 is Invicta, and Invicta has built an empire on a single trick: the permanent sale. You have seen the listings. A watch with a sticker price in the hundreds, slashed down to a fraction of that with a little clock ticking like the offer is about to disappear. It never disappears. That high price was fiction from the first day it existed, invented purely so the discount would feel like a steal you would be stupid to miss. Now look at what you actually get. Inside a lot of their automatics is a Seiko NH35, which is a perfectly honest workhorse movement that costs very little, and there is genuinely nothing wrong with it on its own. The problem is everything wrapped around it: gold plating that wears through to base metal within a year or two, mineral glass that scratches if you look at it the wrong way, and a Swiss-made flourish on the dial that is mostly cosmetic. You're not buying a watch here, you're buying a markdown. Number 2, Daniel Wellington. If Invicta sells you a fake discount, Daniel Wellington sells you a fake price flat out. The movement inside is a basic Miyota quartz that costs only a few dollars. The case is thin, the build is minimal, and the finished watch retails for roughly 10 times what those parts add up to. So where did the rest of the money go? Into Instagram. For years, this brand carpet-bombed your feed with influencer posts and a personal discount code from every account you followed, each one manufacturing the exact same fake urgency. There is no in-house movement, no heritage, and no innovation anywhere in the story. It is a marketing company that happens to bolt a watch onto the campaign. And once you have actually seen the parts list, you cannot unsee it. Quick thing before we keep climbing. If you want honest breakdowns like this one with no sponsor quietly pulling the strings, take a second and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel keep doing this. And there are 12 brands left, including the exact moment this list flips from outright scam to real value. Now, if you thought Invicta's discount game was shameless, number 3 takes it somewhere else entirely. Stührling. This is the fake sale model cranked all the way to its limit. You will find their watches listed in the low thousands, then sold for under $100. A gap so wide it stops being a discount and starts being theater. That first number was never real. Nobody was ever expected to pay it. And what is actually ticking inside is usually a Chinese movement, from makers like Seagull or Shanghai, which are perfectly fine for what they are, dressed up with Swiss-inspired language on the dial, to borrow prestige the watch never earned. The movements are not the crime here, the pricing is. Number 4 is Fossil Group, and this one is sneakier because the watches themselves are not actually bad. Fossil is a licensing machine. Think about every fashion-branded watch you have ever seen in a department store. Michael Kors, Armani, Diesel, Hugo Boss. A lot of those run through the same parent company built on shared case designs and the same general tier of Miyota quartz movements, just with a different logo stamped on the dial. The watch under the Armani name and the watch under the Diesel name are far closer cousins than the price tags would ever suggest. You are not paying for engineering that meaningfully changes from one to the next. You are paying for the badge. Fossil worked out decades ago that a name sells better than a movement, and they built an entire business on exactly that. Number 5, Nixon, plays the same game in a different costume. Here the costume is surf, skate, and lifestyle. Nixon wraps a cheap Miyota quartz in oversized cases and sells you a vibe, a beach, an athlete, a sponsorship reel. The budget goes to the marketing and the riders, not into the watch sitting on your wrist. You get mineral crystal that scuffs, water resistance numbers I personally would not push too hard, and a price that reflects the brand deal far more than the actual hardware. It is not a scam the way the bottom 3 are, it is just a lifestyle tax. You are mostly paying to look like you belong to the crew in the advert. Number 6 is where this whole list changes character. Up to now, we have been talking about deception. From here on, the watches are real, they are just overpriced, and TAG Heuer is the first one through that door. TAG sells you genuine luxury positioning, decades of motorsport heritage, and prices that climb well into the thousands. The trouble is what sits inside a big chunk of the core lineup. Outsourced ETA and Sellita movements, the same base calibers you will find running in watches that cost a fraction of any TAG. Now, to be completely fair, TAG does build a real in-house chronograph, the Heuer 02, and it is a genuinely impressive movement with a long power reserve. But across most of the range, the value simply never catches up to the price. Buy a TAG at full retail and a chunk of that money is gone the moment you carry it out of the boutique, because the secondhand market knows exactly what is inside. Real brand, real history, badly inflated sticker. Number 7, the absolute peak of paying for hype, is Hublot. Hublot is the loudest argument on this entire list that a high price tells you almost nothing about what is actually inside. The Big Bang sits comfortably in the 5 figures, and for that kind of money, a lot of the lineup is running outsourced Sellita or ETA-based movements. The very same architecture living inside watches a tenth of the price. So what is the rest of that money buying? Sponsorships, football, basketball, billboards, ambassadors, every surface they can possibly rent. Hublot spends enormous sums making sure you see the name absolutely everywhere. And what you take home is mass-produced internals in a very expensive-looking shell. Buy one, then watch what happens to the value in the first year alone. Big money out, big name internals in, and a steep drop the second it becomes yours. And that is the bottom of the barrel. 7 brands surviving on marketing, borrowed movements, and prices built on thin air. Now for the brands that prove you were overpaying the entire time. Because everything from here up does the one single thing the bottom 7 could not. It builds the watch itself. The numbers climb, and the engineering climbs right along with them. Number 8 is the pivot of this whole list, and it costs less than nearly everything below it. Casio, and specifically the G-Shock. This is honest engineering at a price that should embarrass half the brands we just walked through. The story even starts honestly. An engineer named Kikuo Ibi wanted a watch that would survive being dropped, so he built it. And in 1983, the first G-Shock landed. A G-Shock shrugs off drops, water, and abuse that would flat out kill watches costing 10 or 20 times more. It runs for years on a single battery. And Casio has now shipped more than 130 million G-Shocks, which is not a marketing figure, that is the entire world voting with its wallet for 4 decades straight. There is no permanent fake sale and no influencer code. The product walks out the door purely on what it does, which is survive. Here is the part that should sting the brands lower on this list. Serious collectors who own Rolex and Omega now keep a G-Shock on the wrist for the weekend, on purpose, because they trust it more. That is the whole pitch, and somehow it is more than enough. Number 9, Orient, is where genuine in-house watchmaking gets almost suspiciously cheap. Orient builds its own automatic movements and has done for decades, completely independent of the Swiss supply chain. Their F6722 caliber gives you hacking seconds and hand winding, 2 features that plenty of far pricier Swiss watches still quietly skip. And you get the whole thing in the Orient Bambino for under $300. Sit a Bambino down next to a fashion brand charging that same money for a few dollars of quartz, and the gap is almost funny. One is a borrowed movement hiding in a marketed shell. The other is a real manufacturer dropping its own mechanical heart into an honest, classic dress watch. Orient does not get talked about nearly enough, and that is exactly why it deserves to sit this high. Number 10 is Citizen, and Citizen quietly solved a problem the rest of the industry just learned to live with. The battery. EcoDrive runs on light, any light at all, so the watch never needs a battery swap and effectively keeps running forever as long as it occasionally sees a lit room. Citizen makes its movements in-house and is vertically integrated to a degree most brands cannot even approach. Partly because it owns the movement maker that quietly supplies a huge slice of the rest of the industry. You get finishing that flirts with Swiss-level quality and Japanese reliability that simply refuses to quit. at a fraction of what a comparable Swiss piece would ever cost you. It is one of the most quietly over-delivering brands in the entire market, and the light-powered trick alone earns its place. Number 11, Seiko, might be the single most important name on this list, for one simple reason. In 1969, Seiko released the Quartz Astron, the first commercial quartz watch in the world, and it rewrote the entire industry almost overnight, very nearly wiping out the Swiss in the process. Whole Swiss factories closed and tens of thousands of watchmakers lost their jobs, all because one Japanese company put a quartz crystal in a wristwatch first. That is the kind of swing almost no company in any field ever gets to claim. But Seiko is not a one-shot story. Down at the affordable end, the Seiko 5 hands you a real in-house, automatic movement for roughly the price of a nice dinner. And Seiko keeps right on innovating at every single tier above it. Very few companies on Earth give you genuine in-house engineering across that much range, from pocket money all the way up to serious money. Seiko earns its spot not on the strength of one watch, but on a track record that almost nobody else on this list can match. Number 12 is Tudor, and Tudor is the value answer to a question everyone is secretly dying to ask about Rolex. For roughly half the price of its far more famous sibling, Tudor hands you genuine in-house movements, chronometer certified, with around 70 hours of power reserve and silicone balance springs that shrug off magnetism. Now let me kill a common myth while we are right here. Tudor does not use the same steel as Rolex, and it does not share Rolex movements. Tudor uses 316L stainless steel, which is excellent stuff, while Rolex uses its own harder 904L. They are closely related companies, not the same watch with a discount stapled on. What Tudor is actually offering you is serious, modern in-house engineering, at a price that makes a long list of pure marketing luxury brands look faintly ridiculous. Number 13, Omega, is where this turns into proper high-end watchmaking that you can actually walk in and buy and actually understand. Start with the Speedmaster, the watch NASA strapped to its astronauts and the one that went to the moon, which is about as much heritage as a single watch can possibly carry. Then look at the engineering underneath. Omega runs the coaxial escapement, a design originally invented by the legendary watchmaker George Daniels, and the first genuinely new escapement to reach mass production in well over 200 years. It cuts friction deep inside the movement and stretches out the time between services. And nearly the entire modern lineup carries master chronometer certification from METAS, the Swiss Federal Metrology Institute, which means every watch is tested to resist magnetic fields of 15,000 Gauss and to hold its accuracy inside 0 to plus 5 seconds a day. That is transparent, independently verified performance, not a marketing slogan. Omega is luxury that openly shows its work. Number 14 is a tie because the very top of watchmaking is not one throne, it is two, one in the East and one in the West. Grand Seiko and Rolex. Grand Seiko gives you hand finishing that genuinely rivals brands charging many times more, and in particular, it's Zaratsu polishing, a hand technique that produces a perfectly flat, mirror-bright surface with no distortion at all, the kind of detail you normally have to spend deep into 5 figures to find. And its spring drive technology holds accuracy to around 1 second a day, a feat that purely mechanical watches simply cannot reach. Then there is Rolex, fully in-house, built to a standard of precision and consistency that almost nobody on the planet can match. And yes, the value retention is completely real. But here is the part the entire bottom of this list never understood. A Rolex holds its value because the engineering underneath it is real, not because somebody slapped a fake sticker price on the box and waited for a discount to make it look like a deal. Earned all the way down to the screws. So that is 14 brands, bottom to top, and once you actually see the pattern, it is very hard to unsee. The brands at the bottom spend their money convincing you the watch is worth it. The brands at the top spend their money making the watch worth it. Real watchmaking never needs a fake discount, a ticking countdown clock, or an influencer code, because the engineering does all the talking on its own. If this changed the way you read the next watch advert you scroll past, hit subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.